Thoughts are always in the past. The mind is always in the past, one step behind. Now, sometimes this is overt and literal, like thinking about the past, thinking about yesterday, remembering something, contemplating what happened or how it could have been different. This type of thinking obviously clutters our mind a good amount of the time. But even when we feel like we are reasonably present, any thought that stirs in the mind is always a reflection of what's happening. It's a snapshot, and it's always in the past. If you imagine a high-speed camera taking pictures of something like a horse race, every time that shutter snaps, there's a picture produced that by the time it's produced, it's already over. What it's taking a picture of is gone. And now there's something else there, a different position of the horse's legs or the horse's head or mane. So our mind is very similar to this. It's taking snapshots constantly, and it's weaving them together into a certain kind of portrait that itself is also moving because thoughts are very fluid. And when we are thinking or we're selfing, which is constructing a patchwork of our life internally, even the moment after it's happening, we're actually experiencing a false reality. We're experiencing an overlay. And it's very sneaky because at any moment we can grab some of the raw data from our visual field to reincorporate that into the mental process of quote unquote seeing. The reason I say quote unquote is because what we think we're seeing almost all the time is actually a visual overlay. We're seeing the internal movie screen of our mind, but not realizing that's what's happening. The reason I know this is because it's quite different. In fact, I would say it's radically different when you start to experience the raw data ongoing. It's so different, in fact, that the sense of being a perceiver somewhere in here or even in the body, looking out there at the world itself is collapsed. It is seen to be nothing but a thought. So the experience is very different. It's much more like you're experiencing the environment as the environment, like you're out there and in here and everywhere in between. But it's not like you're perceiving yourself as a self either. It's happening too fast for that. The self is in the past. The self is part of that woven together patchwork of thought images. That's where the sense of self starts to be produced and then maintained. But in immediacy, in the direct experience of the sense fields of being alive, there is no sense of that self. There's no sense of the solidity, the receiver, the perceiver. There's just radical aliveness or non-duality or everything here, there, everywhere in between, all one, not located anywhere specific, not in space. There's not a dimension to this. It's sort of beyond dimension. The mind imagines dimensions, but reality doesn't need that. It's so real it doesn't need a place to be, doesn't need a place to exist. So how do you turn your attention from the internal film strip that's an overlay of the visual field, which looks like the visual field, right, because it's constantly taking pictures, to the visual process itself? Well, you can do this through training your attention. Just remember, whatever you're seeing right now, by the time you're thinking about it, by the time you're contemplating it, by the time you're experiencing yourself as a perceiver of it, it's over. It's not what's in front of your face you're paying attention to anymore. So you can turn your attention back to what's in front of your face, what's right in the visual field, just that. And notice there's almost like this staccato tendency to take a snapshot and start to do something with it. Like you're doing something to the experience to make it into something for you so that you can enjoy it or contemplate it or understand it, right? Notice that the sense of being someone doing something to that experience that you're taking in directly through your eyes right now itself is only a thought. That's the shutter snapping. Click, click, click. So notice that what's right in front of your face is still there the whole time. It's just not solid in the way the mind thinks about it. It's not in a relational matrix in the way the mind thinks about it. The mind thinks of everything relationally. And the center of all those relationships is the sense of being a you. So this is non-relational experience. It's pure experience. It's zero distance experience. It's very, very intimate because there's no one apart receiving it and processing it. It's knowing itself. It's self-aware, you could say. But the self-awareness isn't apart from it looking down at it or out at it or in at it. The awareness is the experience. So this key that the mind or the thought system or the thought process is always just a little bit in the past will retrain you to continue just to let your attention just move out there, out there, out there into what's actually there. And it's far more light and subtle at first than you're used to because it's not solid. It's not somewhere on a value system. It's not relational. It doesn't have the heaviness or baggage of thought and concept and meaning and purpose. That's all added after the fact. So it's quite subtle at first. And you could almost say it's kind of empty in the sense that it's extremely light. It's not formed. It's never quite formed. But it's also not an empty space because that's also a thought. So this is the way you just let your attention move outward and just take in what's there. Just notice what's there. Don't process it. Don't grab it. Don't grasp for it. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to put it in a paradigm of what awakening is. Don't look back to see the one who's aware of it. Don't worry about any of that. Just stay in that immediacy. You can train yourself to do this anytime during the day. It doesn't have to be in deep meditation. There's a quote by Ramesh Balsekar. I might have said his name wrong, but anyway, he said, apparently he used to say, it's in the can. It's already in the can. So like when I don't know if they do it anymore, when they used to film movies with actual film, maybe they still do. In the can means it's already been edited and printed and it's in the film can. So by the time you're aware of it, it's done. By the time you're thinking about it, it's done. By the time you're a you, it's already done. It's moved on. But the good news is what it's moved on to or how it's changed or how it's appearing now, it's still there. Now. So by doing this, by practicing this and really looking at the subtlety of what you're perceiving, you can peel away the thought process from the actual.